Welcome to This Week from the Principal's Desk, a podcast about Lutheran schools and their leadership. This podcast is hosted by two Lutheran school principals. My name is Rob Lunak, and I'm the principal at Mount Calvary Lutheran School in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and my co-host is Mike Sheeman.
My name is Mike Sheeman, and I'm principal at Bethany Lutheran School in Parma, Ohio, but that's not where I currently am. I'm very pleased and privileged to be down here in the motherland. I'm in St. Louis right now as we record this, so our miles are even further apart, Rob, I think, but it's a joy to be here because we just finished up with a group of SLED participants. SLED is the School Leadership Development Program that's run through the LCMS, Office of School Ministry. And we've talked on the podcast before about things that maybe encourage you to go into administration and some of the challenges and joys you'll face. But SLED is really a growth program for people that are either new administrators or have an aspiration to jump into an administrative role. So I've been blessed to be a mentor in the program for this year, and we just finished up SLED Event 2, and we graduated a number of people walking across the stage who are ready for admin calls, and I am here with 3 of them that were in my group. So I'm just going to go around and ask the people that I'm with if you can introduce yourself, maybe say what school you serve and what is your role in that school.
Hi, my name is Bob Casterline. I am at Risen Christ Christian Academy in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I am currently a middle school religion, math, and science teacher half the day, and the rest of the day I'm the assistant principal.
I am Dana Meyer, and I'm from St. Paul's Lutheran School in De Pere, Missouri. I teach mostly math and STEM from kindergarten to 8th grade.
And hi, I am Esther Edwards, and I teach 4th grade at St. Luke's Lutheran in Oviedo, Florida.
So one of the benefits of SLED, I've met somebody here from Myrtle Beach and somebody from Oviedo, and it's a good thing Dana's just an awesome person because St. Louis isn't really a vacation spot, but the other places are. So I'd come back to all 3 of these places to see these guys again. But we thought it'd be handy just to hear your SLED experiences. So if you could share a little bit with our listeners about maybe what brought you into SLED, how you were selected for this, and maybe we'll just start there. So I don't know if anybody wants to share. How did the process go for you?
Well, my principal reached out to me saying that he got an email about SLED. He shared that email with me and asked me if I would be interested in going through this leadership program because I had communicated that I was interested in leadership prior to that conversation. And I'm really glad that I joined it. I learned a lot this year and I made a lot of new connections.
So my principal at the time was retiring and said, I have this SLED application. If anyone in the school would like to do it, I think any of you would be worthwhile people to look into leadership opportunities. And so I said, do you think I could do it? And she said, absolutely. And she has been supportive of me, even though she retired. She's constantly asking me if I'm getting my work done and telling me how proud she is of me.
I've been an assistant principal for a few years now, and it was just a good thing for me to do. My principal approached me and said, this is something that we should do. We had just gone through the accreditation process and something that kind of beefs up our resume, if you will, and mine as well. So it was a great experience.
Yeah, I went through SLED it was a 2015, 2016 cohort in SLED, and it was definitely a great experience. Flying out to St. Louis is nice. The June sessions are good. Let's see, I think there was like a February session. St. Louis in February is fine. You know, it's fine. So outside of weather conditions, what has been kind of a broad brush big takeaway for each of you with your experience there?
I really enjoy the relationships built. People have come around the nation, and we also have schools overseas. And it's been really insightful to have conversations with people to give us the experiences that they've had in their particular regions and to talk about similarities in ministry and to encourage one another throughout difficulties in it, because we are unified under the LCMS umbrella and in our mission as Christians to go spread the gospel. So it's really encouraging to have people with a very similar mindset and very similar roles to be with and to have in the future as we go forward as leaders.
And I'm not a really huge, big room person who likes to get up and talk to people all across the room. So I appreciated the small groups that I have, especially this group here, and my mentor that I could email or call or talk or ask questions specifically in his experiences as being a principal in a Lutheran school. So it was very, very beneficial for that.
And as nerdy as it is for me, I just enjoyed the work. I enjoyed finding different ways to do different things and really going at a to-do list every month and trying to implement as much as I could to make positive changes at our school.
We got a lot of articles and videos, and we discussed with one another about things that we were learning about, things that we were implementing, and curiosities. And having those discussions and talking about books together and studying them together was really beneficial too.
Yeah, I think with SLED, there's really two main components, which is fantastic. I mean, there's the work, and the work really is designed to support people who want to go into administration, those who are new to it, to be able to say, let us resource you, let us help you. And there's some great articles, like they've mentioned, and books and various things just to get the mind rolling. Because as administrators, there's a lot we have to think about. And so sometimes it's not a matter of we're going to solve everything here or give you the silver bullet, but we're going to lead you to resources that prompt reflection on various topics, which is healthy. The other thing is the networking. So as some of our folks here have talked about the people, it's really important as an administrator to have that network of people, because we can't go it alone. That's even scriptural, where God talks about, as I've said many times, our great cloud of witnesses. We build that here through things like SLED. But one of the other benefits of SLED is everybody who does this goes through a project, and they do something that directly benefits their school. So my three friends here had the chance just to kind of reflect on what that might be for their schools. And just for everybody who's listening to get a feel for what that might be or some ideas, I thought it'd be fun if they each gave just a small summary of their project, maybe how you came to it, and just walk us through in like a minute or two, which might be hard. What was your project?
I guess I'll go first. My project was based on a baseball academy. At our school, we've got about 80 students, and our numbers drop off at the middle school level. I had 9 middle school students. So what I wanted to do was try to implement something that would gather more students to our school to spread the word of God, but also find a different avenue to get new students. So what I did was I contacted a local baseball academy, not a baseball academy, but a baseball clinic, and decided to partner up with them. Not that we're official partners, because we can't be. I treat them as a vendor, but to partner up with them and actually begin to have my students take classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday there, where I teach them from 8 until 12, and then from 12 until 3, they do baseball training. Tuesdays and Thursdays, they're at our facility, or I'm sorry, at our school, and so they keep up with their classes. It's seamless with their classes. Some of the big challenges with that was, speaking with attorneys and also developing the memorandum of understanding to make sure that we're all on the same page. And, like I said, the biggest part of that, though, is to treat those people like vendors and a class, because you don't want to, forego your tax exemption as being a school.
And I did third source funding for my school, and I conducted an auction. We do an auction every 2 years, and all of the people who had previously done that had retired or left the school. And so no one knew how to do an auction. So I quickly learned how to look at contracts, learned how to purchase software, and then also run an entire show, as I called it, for that evening. Luckily, my school raised almost $120,000. We were able to purchase a bus and some educational software, which was our goal. So we made our goal, and now we have a booklet, a file that talks about how to do an auction, so anyone else can come in and pick it up and do an auction without as much stress as maybe I went through.
And my school down in Florida has an outdoor classroom area that wasn't being utilized as much as it has the potential for. So this past year, I worked on creating lessons and working with other teachers to utilize the space more effectively. And the students absolutely loved it. They were able to do a lot more hands-on activities outside in God's creation and investigate their curiosities about it. And it's something that is sustainable because people will be able to copy those lessons, replicate them, and add their own as well. So it's a good launch board into using it for future years.
All of those projects, I get so excited hearing what other people are doing at their schools. And I think that's one of those areas that we, unless we're really intentional about, I would argue that most of us are really bad at that. Like talking to other people at other schools and saying, hey, what are you doing? How's this going? How do you guys do this? We're really great at that with the people in the two rooms next to us, right? The person to your left and the person to your right. We talk to them all the time, right? If you have a second floor in your building, you probably don't talk to the people on the second floor as much as you do the people on your floor. And then if you have another school or somebody across the country, forget about it. It's really tough. I'm fortunate enough to be able to talk to Mike over here once a week through this, right? And that's really great. So hearing that you guys have a group to work with, that's something that I think everybody should be able to take away. But then also, you guys are solving problems that are specific to your school, but I don't think that many of us are unique in our challenges, right? Like running an auction. You guys aren't the only school that's running an auction. Having an outdoor ed. The baseball one is unique. I haven't heard of that one before. That one's really neat. But being
Sorry
able...
about that.
No.
I'm going to take that show on the road too. I'm going to do some dance and arts this coming next semester, or the second half of next year. So I'm going to kind of expand on that too.
Yeah,
Great.
and that's awesome. That's really cool that those things are happening. And I guess I would encourage people listening, if you have a problem at your school that you're struggling how to solve, ask other schools, hey, have you guys ever dealt with this? What did you guys do? And it might not be the exact same thing, but we don't have to start from square one all the time, because we do have this cloud of witnesses around us. We do have this community. And I'm going to speak for you guys, having met you 10 minutes ago. I bet if somebody called you and they said, hey, I'm struggling with this, would you help me? You're going to say yes, right? We're Lutherans. That's what we do. We want to help out.
Yeah.
For sure. I think that's the other thing too. There's going to be so many different projects. And if you're curious, you can always contact LCMS Office of School Ministry, because this was SLED 22. That means, Rob, you've done a SLED project. I've done a SLED project from years past. So there are files and files galore of this kind of stuff. But one of the things that I like too is that a consideration that all SLED candidates need to meet is, what is your context of your school? So everything is going to be different. So it's not even that I could take Bob's baseball program, just take it off the shelf and apply it in my school. There's a lot of other studies that have to go into that. What's the demographic of your school, in your area? What are the needs that are there? How would something fulfill these needs? But it's outside the box thinking. And I love these projects that they've been talking about, because so often people say, why would I choose your school over the other school down the road? Even say the other Christian school, because they're going to say they love Jesus. They're going to say that they're a family. They're going to say small class sizes. They're going to say excellence in education. They're going to say technology. What defines you as the school that they would choose? And the things that you're hearing are those defining factors. That's not to minimize the faith at all or minimize Jesus, but a lot of different schools offer that. So what makes your school really stand out? I think that's a good question that every SLED candidate, frankly, every principal has to wrestle with in a big way. What do you think about that, Rob?
Yeah, I think that is really easy, especially if you're in a Lutheran school that's been around for 150 years. You've always had kids because the church was always growing, and you never really had to worry about it. You were a school because you had a big church that fed into your school. That is unfortunately becoming less and less the norm. And so you do need to know what sets you apart, because Mike's right. If you ask the Catholic school down the street, they're going to say Jesus is their main thing. You can ask the Presbyterian school down the street, they're going to say the same thing. And so if that is the only thing you can compare the schools to, it's going to come down to price for a lot of your families at that point. And if if you are still in the golden days of Lutheran education where you don't have tuition, hey, you won. But if you're charging tuition, I hate to break it to you, there might be somebody out there who's doing it for less than you're doing it. And if that is your selling point, you can't beat anybody on price because the public school doesn't charge anything. So the second you start having a tuition, if all you have, which it's going to sound bad saying this way, if all you have to point to people to is say, hey, well, we teach about Jesus, there are going to be lots of schools in your town that'll do that. And yes, it is our main focus. Everything we do flows through that. But you need to actually show people we teach your kid about Jesus through these things. And we teach your kid about Jesus with these things. And we could teach your kid about Jesus, and then they'll be able to do these things. Those are the things you got to point out. Because if it's just going to be, hey, there's a cross on top of the building, well, Sunday school doesn't cost anything either.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and the other scriptural principle that this really draws out is the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. And I know a lot of people wrestle with, and I don't know if any of you did. If you did, I'd love to hear the story, but wrestle with, should I be going into administration? I'm in my lane here. I'm teaching. Life is good. But how do you discern when God is calling you into administration, but maybe our human struggle is to wrestle against that? That sounds like a lot of headaches. Mike, we knew you 30 years ago and you had hair. All those things could be coming into play here. I guess maybe my question is, what tipped you over into really considering joining SLED? What was the defining factor?
I was already in administration. The deciding factor for me to go into administration was just kind of fill a need that was there at the school. SLED was an opportunity to really embrace what an administrator does instead of just filling that hole whenever it was needed, whether it's anything from meeting with parents to, somebody got sick in the hallway. That's the kind of school that we have. So, for me, it was more of what's the big picture of administration. And it's been nothing but a blessing to really get to know everybody and understand all of the different ways that you can look at different situations to solve the problem or the issue.
I've always been in administration in all my previous lives. I was a manager in an IT training department. I managed 6 people and $1.5 million worth of training development. And it's always been in my blood. So moving into teaching, which is something I love, I still look at administration as something else I love. And it's an opportunity to be able to do both in my life. And I wanted to show people that I have that opportunity and learn more about it, how it works in the Lutheran world. Let's face it, managing and living in the Lutheran world and managing and living outside of the Lutheran world is sometimes a little different.
And I started off my career as a teacher, and I'm still a teacher. I was taking a look to see what other ways I can help other teachers do their job well. So I was looking into going back to school, potentially in administration, potentially in getting an EDD or a PhD in a few different areas, but all related to education. So when the SLED opportunity came around, I used that as a good tester to see if administration is something that I would continue to be interested in even after a year of studying it. And I'm glad I had that opportunity to talk with other administrators about it.
Right. And I think too that SLED is a big jump. And I'm so glad that these 3 people and all the other SLED graduates made that jump. I'm very proud of all of them. I think too, if you're considering administration, or if you're wondering, what happens behind the closed doors of the office from some time, go ask your principal, go talk to your principal and say, hey, listen, I'm thinking about it, or maybe God's giving me a little bit of a nudge. Maybe I'm not ready for SLED, but maybe it's something. Can you tell me what goes on in board meetings? Could I maybe sit in on a session of a board meeting? Could I write a devotion to share at the auction or a PTA meeting? Can I do those things? Because there are other smaller things that you can do that I think are really going to give you the flavor of what administration looks like. Can you work through the budget with me? Can I be in a discipline meeting with you? Can I be there when you go and review an IEP with a parent? All of those things are within the realm of administration. So if you're thinking about it, ask those questions. Let God guide that. And don't be afraid. Yes, it's long hours and the pay does not increase when you become an administrator to anything huge, but it's something where you know that you're serving God in a very important role. And quite frankly, the need for administrators in our synod is enormous. We need people. So if this is something God's putting on your heart, I want you to pray about it. I want you to think about it and maybe start asking those minor questions and see where God leads.
Yeah, if you go up to your principal and you ask to sit in on a board meeting, you're going to make their day. I'll say that. And I've worked with great boards, and they're wonderful people. But board meetings they're not fun for anybody. It's a board meeting. If you like board meetings, you should talk to me because I have questions. Okay, I know one of you has to catch a shuttle here in a couple minutes, so I'm going to keep us moving here. As people who've now finished your SLED experience, what is a piece of advice you would give to somebody thinking about administration or who's just started in administration?
One of my favorite parts of this was, as you guys have both said, get involved before and during the SLED project. Get involved at your school. Go to board meetings. Put yourself up front to see leadership and see if people follow you. See what happens. It was very beneficial for me to take that leap and to learn more.
I would second that. I think it is important for you not to do solely the things behind a computer, but to make people know that you're there to help and to learn from the resources that you have on your boards, on your committees, at your church, but also throughout the synod.
I would say if you're going to do it, it's some work. It's a lot of work, but at the same time, it's fulfilling work, and there's more hours in the day than you realize if you have got the passion to do it.
And we learned a lot about scheduling too. And so when you are intentional with your schedule, then you can complete a lot of your goals and get your stuff done.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's really easy to convince yourself that you're very busy because you can make something really take as long as it needs to take. I will tell teachers during meetings, I said, hey, we're going to talk about this for 10 minutes. They're like, no, we need an hour. I said, the decision we make in 10 minutes is probably not going to be much different than the decision we'll make in an hour. So this is going to take 10 minutes and we'll be done with it. Well, thank you guys for sharing all that. It's been good to hear experiences from people who are going through the program. I'm glad that we still have that program around. Mike, you got any closing words for us?
No, just everything that they've said is spot on. I encourage you, continue to look to the Lord. He will seek, and as you seek, He will provide answers, and listen to His voice because He is talking. So, Rob, if it's okay, I'll close this off in prayer.
Absolutely.
Heavenly Father, God, we come before you. We thank you that you are faithful to your promises, that you are with us. You are guiding us in accordance with your will for our lives as we seek to serve you. Thank you for providing workers for your harvest field. And Lord, I thank you for SLED. I thank you for the opportunities that are presented in it. I especially thank you for Esther and Dana and Bob and for the commitment that they've had into furthering their skills and to learning more so that they can continue to be the effective leaders you've called them to be. Lord, I pray that you are with all who are listening to this podcast who are questioning, is this something for me? Give them clarity, Lord, pave their way and allow them opportunities to be able to discover that because you have work for all of us to do. And we ask that you would guide us to that work so that we might be able to guide others to the love that you have for each one of them as shown in Jesus, in whose name we pray. Amen.